Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to Joy Host. With me, I have Mr. Prem, and today we are joined by Mr. Kadiravan M. Peti, popularly known as Kadri. He is the founder and CEO of Kadri Leadership Academy. Kadri sir holds a Guinness World Record for the longest lesson learned spanning 78 hours. He is also the winner of the International Taped Speech Contest among 6,500 yes completed. He won that International Taped Speech Contest. He has been honored by the Lions Club. He's specializing as a speech coach for Fortune 500 companies, government, and a guest faculty at global universities. With a heartfelt mission to touch hearts and transform lives, he has already made a profound impact on over 3 lakh individuals. A passionate storyteller, he strongly reinforces what Steve Jobs said: the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. He believes that each one of us has a unique story that the world can learn from. Let's hear from Mr. Kadri sir. Today we are going to talk on the storyteller's blueprint for leadership excellence. Hello Kadri sir, welcome to our show.
Good evening, Vijayanand and Kumar sir. Lovely having me on the stage. Thank you so much. Looking forward to a wonderful session. Prem sir and Vijayanand.
Good evening, sir. Welcome to our show. Thanks, Vijay, for the introduction. We'll dive into this topic. Vijay, over to you.
Yes, let's dive into the candidate interview. Kadri sir, I would like to learn how does storytelling serve as a cornerstone of effective leadership? Can you share an example where a leader's story transformed the organization?
Thank you for a lovely question. I believe leadership goes beyond the boardrooms of a Fortune 500 company and the corridors of a corporate organization. Every person who uses storytelling to influence and inspire is a leader. Maybe a news reader talking on television about the innocent children being killed in Gaza, or even a cab driver who talks about how we returned the bag of gold to the rightful owner. Each one of them is using the most powerful tool in the world to motivate people. For me, my mother was the greatest storyteller I know. She told me stories of Harishchandra to teach me the values of honesty and also to tell me that you should never be like her husband, my father, when she was just 32 and I was 16. She was not educated, but she went on to get a BA degree, take tuitions, and bring us all up. Why do I call her a great leader and a storyteller? In every action of us, she displayed leadership qualities and practiced these in real life. Her story has been inspiration for me and my family and the thousands who know her. In the corporate world, the finest example of a leader who transformed his organization is Howard Schultz. He faced three major challenges when he reclaimed the position, the CEO of Starbucks. Challenge number one, rapid expansion. Number two, diluted brand identity. And the organization Starbucks was focusing more on efficiency rather than customer service or experience. Now, what did Schultz do? He used the power of stories. He initiated an amazing program called The Third Place, and he addressed his company's all his employees worldwide. And this third place concept talks about three primary places people spend their lives. The first place is their home. The second place is the corporate organization, the offices. It could be even a school or a taxi driver who spends most of his time in a cab. And the third place which he talks about is the social environment, where individuals relax, socialize, tell stories, and talk their hearts out. Now, Howard Schultz drove these core values, that is, exceeding customer expectations and creating a great experience with stories around the third place. So, I believe storytelling is a cornerstone of effective leadership. And this example of Howard Schultz is an amazing example. Each one of us, when we demonstrate leadership qualities in our lives and values through the power of stories, you become a leader and a great storyteller. Yes, sir.
Wow, it's a good start, sir. You started with the story.
Yes, sir.
I would like to learn what elements make a leader's story authentic and relatable to an audience.
A wonderful question, Vijay, sir. I think authenticity, reliability, I can give you 5 points. One is the personal examples. A personal example in the life of a leader, both his professional and personal life, are critical elements in creating the conviction and making his story genuine and interesting and relatable to the audience. The second one is his personal image. The element of authenticity depends on what image this leader holds in his organization. Maybe he has an amazing image as a great leader, one who creates profits and is a taskmaster, great track record. But what is his personal image at home, outside the circle? Does he live by the value he preaches, the principles and stories he actually demonstrates and tells his organization? If the stories of personal image and the company image do not match, the stories cannot be authentic and they cannot relate to the audience. Because body language and when he speaks on stage, these stories will leak in a wrong way. The third element a leader needs to make a story authentic and relatable. He needs to understand the demographic of the audience. A story of Rama will not affect if the CEO, a worldwide CEO, talks in Europe. A story can be relatable in India. So the demography is very needed. His staff, his team who are staying in Kashmir or staying in Kanyakumari are totally different. So he needs to understand the demography to talk the right stories. The fourth point is his communication style. An assertive leadership style or an aggressive leadership style is amazing when he's talking to his board members or employees to drive home a point or get tasks done. But when he's talking in a town hall, he's talking in a general body meeting, when he's talking to the press, an assertive style or aggressive style may not be the right style. If he wants to be relatable and authentic, he has to use a compassionate communication style. That will be more suitable for Indian organizations and for a different audience. The fourth authentic and relatable element for the leader brings out heroic stories of the organization, not about his own heroism. A company like Hitachi, which is in virtually every single field, they contribute to make the world a better place. That way, they can connect to the audience anywhere in the world. So we can consider these 5 points: personal examples in the life of a leader, his personal image both in the organization and outside. He needs to understand the demography of the audience he's speaking to, which stories to use where, his communication style, where to use an assertive or a compassionate style, and use the power of heroic storytelling. So these elements will definitely make the story authentic and relatable to any audience in the world. So that's my take on this question. I thought it is a wonderful question, Vijay.
Thank you, sir. I started taking notes on these elements.
Thank you so much. Lovely.
How can storytelling be used to articulate the vision of the organization and inspire the employees? Because we need to drive the employees and they should be motivated. How we can articulate the vision of the organizations?
So let me understand what a vision is. It is the aspiration of the picture of the story of the organization in the future. The employees can be inspired to act when things are very simple, relatable. And stories can do this beautifully. A vision and values of the organization should not rest behind the reception table and everybody just has it over there. It has to be practiced. Let me give you a wonderful example of an organization called Malala Fund. This organization was founded by Malala, who got the Nobel Peace Prize, and she had a very clear vision for her organization to highlight the challenges faced by girls and boys in countries where there was severe conflict and they were deprived of education. And she built an emotional connection through powerful storytelling. Any story about her in the YouTube, in the paper, talks about the Taliban assassination, and she advocates the right for children's education. Her speeches and a book, a memoir, I Am Malala, are rich stories of her life. Her stories inspire her team to raise funds for an organization. This is an amazing example how the vision of the company is articulated by the founder in every word, in every communication which goes out. And if leaders across the world take the values and vision of the organization beyond the boardroom and beyond the table, beyond the reception, and make it very visible and allow employees to practice in every action, every interaction with the customer, with every interaction with everybody in the world, magic will happen because the vision and values were first set out why by the stakeholders to be practiced and for the betterment of the company. So I think Malala Fund organization is an amazing organization where the vision is articulated powerfully through the power of storytelling. And we can use this example.
Absolutely, sir. Indeed, I understand communicating the complex ideas for the leaders would be difficult. So, how can leaders use storytelling to communicate complex ideas?
I think when I talk to a lot of leaders, when I coach them on public speaking and communicating the vision, communicating a very complex into simplicity, I use something called the ABCD formula. And my favorite is the A, which is audience interaction. If you stand behind a lectern or a PowerPoint and just deliver a complex idea, it becomes a one-way communication. How long can you talk like that? They're sitting there because they're forced to sit over there. But if there's an audience interaction, encourage participation, ask questions, encourage teams to give their idea of the complex situation, break it down into simpler things, and ask them, did you understand this complex idea? What do you need? Can you give me a feedback? Can you explain it up? So, audience interaction, two-way communication is absolutely important when you're conveying complex idea. The B stands for bridge the gap. I think Microsoft Nadella, he uses his personal story of how he got transformed in his life to simplify complex stories and lofty goals. I think that's an amazing idea. The third C is called core. Use the core of 7 golden elements of storytelling. You can be a good storyteller, but can you actually inspire the audience, impact them, create that visual image? When you use the 7 elements of storytelling, like the character of the person in your story, the setting of the person, where did it take place, which time did it take place, the place, what is the conflict, what is the plot, how does the story change, twist, what are the theme or what are the resolution, what happened, using dialogues. If you use the core and stitch it together, people will just love it. Why do people watch Netflix? Because there's a beautiful structure, there's a beautiful story. If a CEO can knit all the 7 elements and paint that picture in the audience mind, a complex idea can be broken down and people will love to it. Of course, it requires practice, but using the golden elements, 7 golden elements storytelling, we can do this. And I use the word called D. D is data and charts are out. What is in? Videos, props, paint pictures, transport your audience. Tell them I walked, just you can simply say I walked into a crisis. I saw 4 of my employees sitting over there. I started talking to them. You can create vividity. I walked into this 5-star hotel. I saw 4 of my directors sitting there with grim faces, all dressed in t-shirt and jeans pant. There was a chandelier in the middle. The room was dull and there was a gloomy atmosphere. So data and charts are out. Graphic videos, which drives a simple story. Props, you can use props. And then paint pictures vividity. I think some leaders whom I admire in the ability to make complex stories simple are, I just told you about Microsoft Dedala, is the past CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra. She was facing huge backlash because General Motors had to withdraw a lot of cars because of safety and quality. And the process is very complex why she did it. She was not able to explain the entire process so easily. It is quite complex why they did that. But she used the story of a father who was a previous worker employee of GM. And she simplified the story, spoke about the values of GM and the values of father learned about the importance of safety and quality for GM. She broke down a complex situation, a complex decision into a simple value based story of why GM's General Motors stands for safety and quality of the people. And that won them over beautifully. So I think I told you about ABCD, audience interaction, bridge the gaps using my personal stories, the core 7 golden elements of storytelling, the data and chart are out, videos, props, and painting pictures. Make the people drink the coffee. Don't describe the coffee. Let the coffee come out, the steam come out, the white cup. Let them see the color of the coffee, the smell of the coffee. Use the 5 senses. That will make a complex situation very simple. Yes, sir.
Thank you for that ABCD formula. Uh, I see
I
nowadays
learned that
we
in
are talking
school.
about
I
emotional
learned.
intelligence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, how does storytelling enhance a leader's emotional intelligence? Could you please share some examples?
Okay, let me start with the definition of emotional intelligence. I think it's the ability to understand my own emotions as a leader. I should understand Vijayanand's emotions and I should regulate the emotions accordingly. That is the core component of emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence has 5 components: self awareness, social awareness, regulating self regulation, emotion, and empathy. A leader, when he tells his story, he demonstrates these 5 components, especially when he's talking on a one-to-one. Some great examples of leaders who use emotional intelligence was Jeff Bezos of Amazon, especially during the downtown when the things the company was coming near bankruptcy. Those powerful emotional stories when Jeff Bezos shared with his employees made them empathize with them and create an emotional Airbnb is another company which has the capacity to build an emotional bond with the customers. They talk about a concept called belonging anywhere, and they articulate with different cultures, different people, different traditions, new experiences, creating an emotional intelligence bond between people where emotional intelligence is actually employed. So I believe storytelling significantly enhances the leader's emotional intelligence when they express their emotions, weakness, and strengths. They say, I am one, you are one. The bond builds. So emotional intelligence is much more important than IQ. And the history, statistics all shows people, successful leaders are very high in emotional intelligence. They're also great, powerful storytellers.
Thank you for the example, sir. I see we are working across different continent, different culture, different region. Can you share some universal storytelling principles that leaders can use across diverse cultural backgrounds?
I think communicating to audience of different cultural backgrounds and diversity is a huge challenge for any leader. Stories are the bridges which actually narrow this cultural diff. Two leaders who really use this universal principles are Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, sorry, Gandhi was a master addressing different audiences of different cultures. Whenever he spoke, wherever in Europe, in any to any audience. And I'm going to drive home some points, universal principle which Gandhi practice. I think he had a great sense of boundary of culture and tradition. I'll drive home this story with a simple story when Gandhi was studying in the University College London. During his college, he's sitting with a group of all European and English students, and Gandhi is from India. In the King's College of London, the professor hated Gandhi for his wisdom. The professor, wanting to ridicule Gandhi, asked him a question in the whole class. Gandhi, if you found a bag of money and a bag of wisdom on the college campus, which one would you take? Without battling an eyelid, Gandhi said, of course, the bag of money. The professor said, if I were you, I would take the bag of wisdom. Gandhi smiled and said, each one takes what they don't have. So, this element in a leader is very important to connect in diverse cultural background across any country. The sense of humor, which is very important. I think the next example of Gandhi is he had this empathy for his people, for his team, for all everybody. In a country where so much of religions and culture and languages, how did the people fall in love with this man? He had this sympathy and empathy for his people. During the British time, the trains had three classes. The first class reserved only for the British, the second class for the rich Indians, and the third class for the poor people of India, dirty trains. And Gandhi chose to travel in third class because he understood the sorrow. He wanted to be one among them. And he built a magical bond and broke every barrier from north to south. And when a reporter asked him, why are you traveling in third class? His wit said, because there is no fourth class. So this empathy with people broke every barrier. The third thing I can tell you was his ability to think on feet. He could connect with anyone on the spot. When he was in UK, a reporter asked him, what do you think of Western civilization? Gandhi said that would be a great idea. The message was clear. You may have progressed industry, technology, everything, but we in India have a rich culture because we grew on the culture of values, love, and affection. Beautiful. The last point which breaks every barrier is his humility. The story of Gandhi meeting Charlie Chaplin in a small slum in London, and Gandhi invited him for his prayers. Gandhi sat on the floor and asked Nelson Mandela to sit on the sofa. Sorry, Charlie Chaplin to sit on the sofa. So these five principles enables any leader to break barrier. That is sense of humor, empathy, and his humility. Nelson Mandela was another leader who could really communicate and break all barriers of diversity. He loved his African people, but he could actually connect with the whites by telling them that his stories of resilience in the present. He respected the values of the English, but he always treated us as M1. I think these stories will never die down in history. They will ever remain forever. Gandhi and Nelson Mandela use universal story principles to break every cultural barrier principle through the power of storytelling. Yes, sir.
Yeah, nicely said, sir, about Mahatma Gandhi. Now, This is a new information for me. He has lots of humor sense. Thank you for that. You mentioned about the setback for Amazon and corporates, right? As a leader, how
Yeah,
can leaders use stories of failures or setbacks to inspire growth and resilience?
when I work with leaders, and yeah, it's a nice question. So you said that how do you use stories to set for failures and setbacks to inspire growth? Oh, I think when I work with leaders, I use something called the 6R formula. Okay, what feelings they had. Okay, understand what they're feeling at that moment. What did happen to them? Are they frustrated with what happened? Are they disappointed with the story which happened to them? Or they express their feelings, not let it die down. The second R is review the situation. Take a step back and see what what story was it out of your control. So review the situation. Example was Apple Steve Jobs iPhone launch. When the iPhone 4 was launched, there were a lot of maintenance issues. But Steve Jobs took a step back and found out what the problem was. He addressed the situation and spoke to the press. He was very transparent and discussed the problem and told them what the solution was. So when you review the situation and look back at the stories which have happened, it gives you a lot of clarity. Third one, revise your goals and actions. Don't make the goals too big or too huge. And that will give you a picture. Significant problem when personal computers gained popularity. IBM reviewed the goals, shifted from the personal computer, and they moved into the successful IT services, and they prevented a potential failure. I think the fourth R is to reflect on the strengths and achievements. Look at your past. Where have you achieved? Recall past stories of your achievement. If you look at, if I remember the story of Microsoft Satya Nadella, they shifted to cloud service because their strengths were in software and innovation. So that is a huge, beautiful shift. And the fifth R is a little difficult. I would wish on a personal level leaders, when they go through failures and setbacks, to with an external agency. I think the recent example of the Atal tunnel collapse. I think India were virtually quite equipped to handle it, but they took the experience, the expertise of an external agent to solve the problem. So requesting help and support at the right time is not a sign of weakness or a failure, but is a smart move. And the last one, I think, which every single leader has, failures are only setbacks, temporary setbacks. And when you have a growth mindset, for example, a company like GE, which was breakdowns and failures, but they had a very good growth mindset. And when you have a growth mindset, big growth mindset. I think Airtel is another example. In spite of stiff competition from Reliance and everybody, lot of companies, mobile companies closed, but Airtel even stands today because they have a great growth mindset. Are the stories which I use. Recognize your emotions. Number one, review the situation. Third, revise your goals. Reflect on the strengths, your past victories. Don't hesitate to talk for, ask for help. And finally, have a beautiful growth mindset, like always be hopelessly confident.
Absolutely. With this,
Yes, I think that
anybody can
summarizes my.
become resilient when they get setback.
Yeah, yeah, but I think it's a good. I think it's a good formula. This is something which I have sat and created. When I go through the 6 R's at every R, I actually allow them to tell the stories which come out of it. The stories causes a commit of an emotional bond, and it creates emotions of what happened in the past. Scientifically, what happens is the hormones, like the neurotransmitters like oxytocin, dopamine, cortisol get liberated at the time when they go through that emotional story. And that is the point when change happens, inspiration happens. I don't do any kind of magic. I'm only a catalyst who helps them tell the stories to bring out these factors. So that is what happens. So they're able to go through the setbacks and failures by listening to their own stories and joining the dad packs of the past stories. And of course, I share stories of my own life and the leaders and people like whom I meet. It helps them overcome the failures and setbacks.
Nicely said, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I see when we talk about stories and past experience, whatever it is very important. I have a doubt whether we can follow ethical standards. How important is it for leaders to uphold ethical standards in the story?
See, the stories they tell their organization. Okay, the stories they tell their organization to the people. If it is not ethical, it will actually indicate in their body language and facial expressions. Because the story, ethical stories, it shapes their own credibility. It's front of the organization they're talking. No, you're the C of the organization. It's the ethical culture. It's the face. And two outstanding Indian examples. One is Ratan Tata. When he launched the Nano project, the car, he promised the people that he'll give a very beautiful car for a very reasonable amount for the common man. But as they went into the production, it became more and more difficult. He had a lot of backlash from the directors and from the press and from people. But he had back. He stood by it and gave them a car. Yes, Tata lost a lot of the story that he told his people. He created something. Just remember that the Bombay blast. What did Ratan Tata do? He helped the entire Mumbai, all his community. He was standing there through the night, seeing that everything went well. He provided them medical care, education for all the children. That is an amazing story of ethical standards. Another leader was Dr. Abdul Kalam, who practiced ethical leadership at the highest standard. When he was the president, he had to make a very important decision. The House of Parliament had passed a bill called the Office of Prophet in the year 2005, and it was allowing the parliamentarians to practice, keep office of practice in certain conditions, compromised accountability and transparency. This is one of the reasons he did not get a second term, probably. But what he left behind, the story of his life, which he left behind, people's president just left behind a wristwatch. They say only 6 shirts, 2,000 shoes, and 2,500 books. Any leader who can himself. So it's extremely important that leaders live their lives ethically. Ratan Tata and Abdul Kalam are outstanding experiments. And companies like Enron, which did not practice their values in ethical leaders, along the way they will fall and collapse. So it starts with the story of ethical leadership right at the top. This, I believe, is very crucial in leadership, ethical leadership, and ethical storytelling.
When we follow ethical standard, indeed we can build the trust and have a very strong team. How embracing vulnerability in storytelling helps in building trust and a strong team.
The moment a leader becomes ethical, he's transparent. He talks about his weakness, he talks about his failure. Is it not? He becomes vulnerable. And what is vulnerability? It could be a sign of weakness, it could be a sign of failure. But it tells me, Prem, Vijay, we both are human beings. I am one with you. It opens the door of sharing and caring, encouraging strong team synergy. There is one story which I really love of Facebook. See, her name I think is Sheryl Sandberg. She lost her husband due to sudden death, and she shared her grief with the world through her stories with her employees. And her resilience in a book, I think, called Option B. By embracing vulnerability and telling everybody that we should face the challenges. She opened a conversation, a communication between her Facebook employees, and all that. I too am vulnerable, but I'm also with you. So when you share your stories of vulnerability, especially in the personal front, it opens a huge doorway of building trust and cooperation. Bonds together. Yes, you are the CEO, but still we all are human beings who bond. And when something happens like this, does the company stand by the employee? And that's important. So, embracing vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. Even on stage, when we speak, it's okay to break down and cry because we're all human beings. That vulnerability is that particular moment when we bond with people, build the connection with the audience. Through the story, still, I too am like you. I too have my sad moments and I'm with you. So I think that's an amazing story of Facebook CEO Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah, we all are human being. We all have our own story. It's okay to cry. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Never
Can you
seen
share?
Vijay even have a dull face, always smiling.
Thank you, sir. Can you share a personal experience where storytelling played a pivotal role in navigating a challenging situation and fostering team spirit?
Okay, a personal story. Okay, let me tell you a personal story which happened in the 2007, I think so, if I'm not mistaken, 2007. I was called to the Bangalore School of Business by a dean called UK Sharma to address college students who had gone on strike. The college had lost its license due to some management problem, and the students were not allowed to enter the exam. They were not given the hall ticket. And this was the final exam. They were already to have the exams. The students went on a rampage because all of them had borrowed money. The parents had borrowed money, mortgage houses, sold jewels to put these students into college. And they were all had a dream to go into the university, into the corporate world. And they'd gone on rampage and burned the buses. They were amazing human being, my mentor. So he called me one fine morning and said, Kadri, I want to meet you. Come and talk to my students. And it was a long drive. I think it was a Friday evening by the time I got the message. I think Saturday morning I reached. And I went to the hall over there, and there were 70 to 80 students sitting in a beautiful hall, a corporate, a kind of a classroom, steps type, and they were all wearing blue suits, white shirts, girls and boys sitting with total sadness on their faces. I could understand them, I could relate with them, what they're going through. He told them a lot, that's why they stood and listened to him. The moment they turned around to write something in the chalkboard, dusters and chalk pieces were thrown at me. I was shocked. I asked them, what is the problem? What's your problem? There were some sounds from the back benches which, sir, you're the problem, please leave the hall. Because you're the 10th person who's coming in talking to us. Nothing. I had several tries just walking out. I can't tell a joke and humor them because they have no mood to listen to that. I knew I had to address the issue of the backbenchers. At that moment, my only concern was to get the students' hall ticket. I wanted them to listen to me. So I, something out of the blue, I knew I had to address the backbenchers. I told, "What's your name?" He said, "My name is Rajkumar." He said, "See, Rajkumar, I think I and you have a problem." I think somewhere out of the blue, I don't know, intuitively I told him, "I think I and you will have a fight. And if you win, I'll walk out. And if you lose, you have to shut up and sit down and listen to me." I don't even know today why I told this statement. But when he stood up, I was shocked. He was 6 foot 3 inches, huge guy, broad shoulder, and he stepped into the corridor and started where what level it went. I regretted the moment I told him this. And 4, 5 steps later, no, I had an eureka moment. I asked him, Rajkumar, stop. I want to warn you that I'm a black belt in karate. And if you step forward and hit me in the wrong place, I'll tell everybody that I killed you in self defense. And he took some 3, 4 steps back and he sat down. I was no black belt. I just told him this story. I don't know why. And for the next 1.5 hours, I told them the stories of my life, my difficulties, how I lost my father when I was only 16 years, the challenge I faced, sometimes pushing my scooter for miles worth of petrol. We didn't have food in the house when he died after the funeral. And these stories build a bond. And these stories, I help the students get their hall ticket through some political influence. And we all joined together. And we set a Guinness record. We created the longest lesson, Guinness record, the longest lesson, 78 as non-term lesson. And we raised 5 lakh rupees for underprivileged children. That, I believe, one of the greatest stories in my personal life, where I use the power of storytelling to bond a team together and achieve that. And it gives you the most satisfying moment even today. And that's one personal story. Thank you for asking me. I shared this.
Thank you, sir. I still remember that one of the event I attended when you were the guest, you talked about one college
Okay.
story. Still, I remember that one. So I can correlate when you talked about this personal experience. Still, I remember. That's the power of story.
Thank you.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know how you were in college, Vijay, but I was very mischievous.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I didn't hear your question. Tell me.
Yes, we are looking for the audience to raise their question. They can enter the questions into the comments. We'll ask to the speaker. Um, sir, next
Yeah.
is what is the relevance of storytelling blueprint? We mentioned blueprint as a title. So, what is the relevance of storytelling blueprint for the leaders in the world of artificial intelligence and technology?
If I could relate to the word blueprint. So, what's a blueprint? Yeah. Blueprint is from A to Z. It gives me a map, it gives me a path for a leader to choose the right story to live the right life. Correct? Okay. So, if you look at the history of storytelling, from the caveman's time, when he drew pictures on the rocks in caves, when he did sculptures of stories, and when we in the recent past looked at the cave, we knew the story of the caveman. The legacy of the Bible, the relevance of Ramayana. Why are we creating so much of noise and spirituality? We're making a lot of noise and advertising about Ramayana. Mahabharata, Quran, World War I, World War II. Everything is documented and spoken and spread by the power of storytelling. Yes, today in the modern world, past the industrial revolution, the internet is gone. Okay, the artificial intelligence come. Power of technology will be used to deliver better stories. AI will create more graphics, more personal stories. Because 100 years or even 10 years from now, nobody is going to think about C coding, C plus. Everything is going to be automated. They're not going to talk about who created C, how. They're not going to talk about technology, how C plus, whatever is coding. They'll talk about the person, how he created C plus, what forced him to create C plus. How did Steve Jobs quit Apple, come back and create a great Apple iPhone? Not what the core elements of the technology iPhone. They'll talk about the person who created the story. I think so. The common thread which binds and connects people from thousands of years, from our caveman, from the old Stone Age man, even from Adam and Eve, if we can talk, the common thread, the common bond from an Adam and Eve, from our father, mother, children, each one follows storytelling. The relevance of storytelling in the modern world is more than ever. I think one of the greatest technology leaders and one of the most famous personality in the corporate world was Steve Jobs, who said that the most powerful man in the world is a storyteller. And he also says the vision agenda of generations to come can be articulated the power of storytelling. If a storyteller has to leave a legacy, if he has to leave a beautiful, every leader, every person should learn the story blueprint to be effective, to inspire, to influence, and impact people, not just on the professional level, but the professional level. And they say we all are human beings on this great planet. And the stories are one which will bridge this gap. They're the gems which have studded everything on this planet Earth. The gems of life, the gems of everything.
Yes, you have covered more than 15 to 20 stories in this event. That's amazing. Every story is with inspiring information, all this. Prem sir, would you like to go with your questions?
Sir, I was a quiet spectator, wanted to understand and see how, because we normally take shifts in way of asking questions. This time I wanted to be a spectator, come and learn what you are talking about, sir. So I didn't ask any questions. So I am amazed the way a story can turn for any person. A story is like a map for a person to take things and move on, and it remains in memory because we talk in pictures, we don't talk in words. Storytelling is more about pictures, words, representation, all together, put across, bundled together, and given to a person to cherish for life. Every story that you spoke has brought up some of the reference points that are there, and every person you have referred are a great inspiration for everybody who's listening. At least me and Vijay have been listening to a lot of talks that you have been doing, and we are amazed to have you on our show. Thank you for being with us. Vijay, you
Thank you,
can
sir.
take the key takeaways. This is what I learned from key takeaways from what Sir has told. Amazing story, sir. Amazing way of expressing your thoughts. Great to have you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Vijay, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Prem sir, there is a question from audiences.
I am. Let me see. I'm not seeing anything, but let me refresh. No, Vijay,
We
I'm
have a
not.
question from audience.
Let me check. Yeah, give me a sec, please. Uh, can imaginative story. Okay.
Yes. I, yes.
Sorry, Vijay.
Ah,
There's some glitch
Go
here.
ahead, sir.
There's some glitch here. We are not able to see the question. I think, sir, we'll answer that question over the comments, I think, sir, because there's some glitch here. We are not able to see that. We'll take that question offline, sir.
no, but any other? Okay. Okay. I think, Premkar, you've been a great leader. Would you like to ask me something so I can learn something from you?
Sir, I see. I've been learning from people who have been leaders like you, and It's been a journey where I've started, where people stories have made many things for me. There are a lot of stories which I carry. My mentors, my journey, my managers have taught me a lot, and I've been following your talks. I've been talking about many other inspirational talks that I've been writing on LinkedIn and other posts. And I take every pointer that comes to me as a feedback, and as you have told in some of these sessions, and I've heard somewhere, feedback is what the person takes, and that's the breakfast for champions, is what I understand. So great to know from you, sir. Nothing much on specific, but there's a lot of learning that I've done over the years, sir.
Yes, sir.
Vijay, over to you.
So you can send me the questions. Yeah, I think I lost you. I lost you. I lost you. Yes, sir.
Thank you for giving great insight, and you have covered so many stories in this event. With this, we would like to conclude the session. Image demography, understanding demography, audience, communication style, and use power of heroic storytelling. And you talked about 6 R's, which is very important to be a resilient. And you mentioned sense of humor, empathy, humanity, all are my key takeaways. Thank you for that great insights, and you mentioned so many stories in this event. Thank you so much being part of our event.
Just one 10 seconds.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and let's executive audience come over here. I really love the questions that you gave me. I really had to go very deep within to answers. Lovely, brilliant questions. I'm sure it has helped a lot of people. Uh, and thank you so much for organizing everything and thank you to all the people who have come on the show today. I'm sure the Storyteller's Blueprint for Leadership Excellence is a starting journey for all of us. Thank you. I had a great time. I think stories can change the world. Everyone has a story. I love to listen to it, the whole story of the world. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Kadri sir. Thank you, Prem.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience. We will come up with next session next week. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.